Welcome viewers to this series of lectures on ancient India, and this time around we are going to talk about the post Mauryan period and more precisely about the economy of the post Mauryan period. In the previous couple of discussions that I had with you, that was also about the economy of the post Mauryan period, where we discussed about the general outline of the economic health of India during the post Mauryan times, the literary and most importantly archaeological sources by which we can reconstruct the economic profile of the post Mauryan period. We also spoke of the thriving Indo-Roman trade that becomes a characteristic feature of the post Mauryan period, enabling Indian economy to gainfully engage with the Roman world through not only overland route, but also maritime routes. This was also the time probably when the West for the first time came to know about the phenomena of monsoon winds in the Indian Ocean, and they leveraged this to good effect to transact across the Indian Ocean with the peninsular India and even across the peninsular India down to Southeast Asia. And that brings the issue of the level of participation or the degree of participation of the Indians in this lucrative Indo-Roman trade, which was the characteristic feature of the post Mauryan period. And we shall be talking in this lecture and the subsequent one about that Indo-Roman trade in particular. Right. This is not to say that there are other segments of economy that we had discussed in the previous lectures, couple of lectures that were not important. The fact of the matter is that what we know today as the Silk Route, the iconic Silk Route that started from China down to Central Asia, across Central Asia down to Europe. Momentarily or briefly, Indian economy became linked to this silk trade as well, more out of factors that are outside Indian doing, so to say, because there were some disturbances or some kind of extortionist policies adopted by polities in Central Asia, and therefore the traders preferred to take a detour to Indian Ocean via the Indus, and thereafter reach the European market through the Red Sea, Alexandria and so forth, across the Mediterranean. And that happened almost at the time when the Kushanas were at the helm in northwestern and North India. And since they had their seat of power in Central Asia, but North India and northwestern part of India, a significant portion of it was also part of Kushan Empire. Therefore, for these couple of centuries around the Common Era, around the beginning of the Common Era, Indian economy did transact or did had this intercourse with the ongoing silk trade. And over and beyond that, we all are aware of the Mauryan linkage or Mauryan contact, Mauryan ambassadorial contact with the Greco-Roman world. So, that also constituted a legacy along the grooves of which even in the post Mauryan period there was a very thriving overland trade and commerce happening. Gandhar and Mathura art, which represents the cultural ethos of this period in terms of sculpturing, art and so forth, and religions of various nomenclatures had their artistic creations associated with these two schools of sculpturing and art. And that tells us about a very cosmopolitan, urbanized kind of environment that must have been there. Politically, of course, we have discussed earlier that this period is characterized not by pan-Indian huge bureaucratized empire like that of the Mauryas, but smaller polities. But importantly, these polities are now developing in areas where settled agrarian settlement or settled agrarian cultivation or agrarian economy had not taken root. So, those are the areas where monarchical polities are developing now. So, which we have discussed earlier that they are all indicative of the enhanced capacity of the economy to generate enough surplus which would allow social and economic differentiation to happen to an extent where a ruling stratum emerges in those regions, and it's not like that of the Mauryas where the epicenter is somewhere in the middle Gangetic plain, noticeably in Pataliputra, the Magadha area, from where, and that becomes the springboard of or ripples creating a source which is generated to other areas in terms of monarchical polity and agrarian economy and so forth. But in the post-Mauryan period, it is these areas on their own that are developing enough economic wherewithal to sustain a polity of their own, and it is from these areas that the ruling stratum is emerging. The case of the Satamahans, Vakataks, or several other polities in the post-Mauryan period is actually epitomizing this process, this larger process of social and economic differentiation that is happening. And there are archaeological correlates of it alongside, of course, literary references of these polities, epigraphic records, coins and coinage is taking roots in India. In Indian history, sovereignty becomes, political sovereignty becomes hinged to the ability of the polity to monopolize coin issuing power that was earlier exercised by various trade guilds and manufacturing guilds. Now it becomes the exclusive domain and monopoly of the ruling polity, or the king, the monarch, to issue coins and so forth. So, these are this is the gamut of change that we have already surveyed so far in the post-Mauryan period, particularly with reference to economy. And we move on from here to focus more intensely on the Indo-Roman trade that had triggered around this time through maritime route. And as we discussed just now, that this is not to say that other modes of transactions were not there, because we have already discussed it earlier. So, we are going to focus more on the Indo-Roman trade today. Now, as you can see on your slide, Indo-Roman trade in the post-Mauryan period and the level or intensity of participation of Indians in this trade network is something which is an issue of debate amongst historians. What comes across as a very indisputable kind of fact is that this trade is happening, and this is happening not via North India, where most of the polities were developing, but this is happening mostly with reference to the port cities and the ports located on the western coast of India and also on the eastern coast of India, right? And we don't know much about the level of economic development in these areas from where these transactions are happening with the Roman world. Now, this is something which becomes the central issue of debate amongst historians, as to how to visualize, how to reconstruct the period when other coordinates of a market society are perhaps not that visibly present as it did in North India, and yet you have a very lucrative Roman trade happening across peninsular India. So, what was the level of political intervention on part of the Indians or Indian polities? We know of the iconic Cholas, Cheras, Pandyas, Satyaputras, who are referred to even by Ashok, and even otherwise we know about them through Sangam literature, which is also belonging to the same period, the Mauryan period and the Post Mauryan period. So, most probably it is them who stand as the candidates, as the political candidates who are engaging with the Roman traders and making the most of it, because some of the Roman sources, and that we will discuss in today's lecture, do refer to very intense maritime trade that is happening across the Roman world and India. And some of the kings in Roman Empire are even lamenting that their gold is being siphoned off to India via this trade, and therefore the balance of trade is something which is in favor of India, right? And this literary evidence has to match with what we get through archaeology or even otherwise through Sangam literature and so forth, the kind of socio-economic structures that we visualize with respect to Sangam literature certainly leaves some bit of gap that have to be filled in order to make a very coherent fit with what is written in the Roman sources, the level of engagement of the Indians, and the I would say economic and technological readiness on part of the Indians to be linked to this thriving trade between the Roman world and Southeast Asia and gainfully engage in this. So, what is for sure is that Indians are engaging. There are archaeological evidence which just cannot be denied at all, and so they are very much there. They are bullions, Roman bullions, but what impact does it have on the Indian polities or Indian economy? Does it lead to something transformative? Is something which needs to be studied further, right? So, the importance of participation is indisputable. Important participation of the Indians in this trade is indisputable, but the degree of participation is something which is debated amongst historians. When I say degree of participation, it is the Indian participation. How were they the passive recipients of what is happening between the Roman world and Southeast Asia, or Indians are taking efforts and they are active participants making things happen and so forth. So, that is what is debated amongst historians. And in this, of course, as we discussed just now, there are allied issues, issues of boat making techniques, navigational tools, level of market development or monetization in peninsular India. Unless we work this out to a required or optimal degree of sophistication, the argument that Indians are making it happen is something which will have to be looked into, right. So, talking of Pliny, and we have already referred to these sources in our earlier lecture on post-modern economy, part 1 and part 2. So, Pliny informs us that India came nearer, this is the expression that is used by Pliny, India came nearer the Roman Empire through the love for gain, and that tells you that it is the lure of commercial gain, economic gain, which pulled Indians into this trade. So, they are benefiting out of this. So, they are exporting or they are exchanging items which is fetching them good return, and that is a good enough indicator of the gainful engagement of Indians in this Roman trade that is happening in the post-modern period. Similarly, Strabo, yet another authority whose writings survive about this trade, and Strabo also mentions quite a few things about Indian ports, about Indian items that are coming into Europe or what is being transacted through this trade. And Strabo says that about 120 ships sail from Myos Hormos, which is in the Red Sea, which is a port in the Red Sea, to India. It is a very important point from where this trade is happening, and therefore, please remember, we are talking of the post-modern period around the time of the beginning of the Common Era. So, roughly 2000 years from the present times, 2000 years before the present times. Of course, there was no Suez Canal, right, and yet the Red Sea was very much in use for navigational transactions and trade transactions. This is something that is of topical importance even today, and we know that despite these conflicts in the Middle East, be it Israel Hamas or Iran Israel or associated countries, say Syria and several other countries, they are getting into this this war-like situation, this strife-like situation, and they are using their ability to obstruct the ongoing trade through the Red Sea to the detriment of countries like Israel and so forth. And this is 2025 we are talking about, and 2000 years prior to this also, Red Sea, despite Suez Canal not being there, has become an instrument or a very important instrumental channel of communication, navigational communication between Europe and Asia. So, it is historically documented and archaeologically attested as well. So, Strabo is talking about very impressive number of ships that are sailing from a port in the Red Sea to India, and that is a clear evidence of the degree of navigational intercourse or trade intercourse that India is having with the Roman world. Strabo also tells us about an embassy sent by a Pandyan king located around Madurai, and we know about these Pandyan kings through Sangam literature. Though historians, when they read Sangam literature, they don't quite give us this impression that it was a very great monarchical kind of setup. What is agreed upon generally in the mainstream historiography about the Chola, Cheras, Pandyas and Satyaputras as mentioned in Sangam literature is that of a very humble kind of socio-economic growth that they must have had around this time. And please don't confuse this with the imperial Cholas, Cheras and Pandyas. That happened 1000 years later, and of course they are bearing the same names historically bestowed through Sangam literature, but they are two different timelines that we are talking about, right. So, at this stage perhaps Chola, Cheras, Pandyas is part of Sangam literature and Sangam polity. Mainstream historians don't quite visualize it with respect to a very developed market kind of monetized kind of economy, rather tribal chieftainship kind of a stage where different kings are fighting with each other to take control of important tinais. Tinais are ecological patches, ecological zones. And basically this Sangam literature is about love poems and in the realm of literature, less about history, but historians have used this to good effect to extract whatever historical residues that can be had from this literature. So, even Strabo is alluding to a Pandyan king located around Madurai who is transacting with the Roman world. So, what comes across to us for sure is that Sangam polities are having something to transact with this ongoing Roman trade, and he is transacting with none other than the Roman Emperor Augustus. So, here it's a transaction of a different stature that is being spoken of. So, that is the gap that I was alluding to, that has to be worked upon. Now, Pliny has left data to visualize about this trade transactions, and this trade transaction probably was happening in 4 stages. And these 4 stages, I'll just explain as to what it means. So, if you read these Indo-Roman accounts, they speak of the Red Sea port, that is Myos Hormuz, and or it could be the same port's another name, or it could be an adjoining port in the same area, Berenice. And so, from Myos Hormuz or Berenice to Muziris. Muziris is located in the Malabar coast, that is that would be around present day Kerala. And Muziris, as referred to in the Indo-Roman accounts, is referred to as Musiri in the Sangam literature. So, we have this information or corroboration of this information coming from different sources, Indo-Roman sources, Sangam details. So, they do match up to give credence to this transaction and trade and association that has been reconstructed on the basis of such references. Now, Pliny also tells us that this distance between Hormuz to Muziris or Musiri was covered in 40 days by following Hippalus. Hippalus is the term that's used in this Indo-Roman account, and it is generally understood with reference to southwest monsoon. Some even say that it's the name of a person who discovered the southwest monsoon as a feature of the Indian Ocean, because they were transacting through this Indian Ocean for a long time, and so they discovered the pattern of the monsoon wind and so forth. So, one doesn't know whether it's the name of a person or it's the name for monsoon that that Indo-Roman accounts use, but what it tells us for sure is that now the Europeans have become aware of the rhythm and the phenomena of monsoon, which of course must have been very important if one were to transact through sea route in this area, in Indian Ocean, in the Arabian Sea, as well as in the Bay of Bengal or Indian Ocean, to be more inclusive, right. So, between the 2 points, it also appears that this was the shortest and safest route, right. So, one had to juggle between distance and safety. Remember, we are talking of the times 2000 years prior to the present times. So, the robustness of ships, boats that they are using, their technical sophistication, that has to be kept that has to be kept in mind, and it took 40 days for them to reach the Malabar coast from Red Sea ports, right. So, this is about this trade, and in the next part of this lecture, we will talk more about this in a more focused way, and also about the 4 stages or 4 leg trade that is happening from Rome to India, and also the level and degree of participation that can plausibly be reconstructed about the participation of Indians in this trade. Thank you.